What is the cringiest thing you have done to get a crush's attention? Put an entire pack of bubble gum in my mouth and tried to chew it. Ended up drooling on myself. She left the lunch table. Duck. That hurts to type. Once I was 14, I accidentally sent a picture of me in a super fancy dress to my crush because I wanted him to ask me to the dance. I used a pole dance on a lamppost outside a boy's house when I was 13. 9th grade. Last day before Christmas break. There was a girl on the school bus who was once into me earlier in the year but had now called off for some reason. I needed to get the fire going again. So I was going to bring Miss Leto on the bus. Pull it out of my backpack at some point and be like, oh yeah, this stuff grows everywhere. I was just picking some of it this morning while I was waiting for the bus, and that's all. What I was hoping for was that she would get the nerve to kiss me since I was holding Miss Leto. Well, Miss Leto grows high up in the tree. So I cut off a piece of holly and trimmed the thorns off of it because who really knows what Miss Leto looks like anyway? So I'm sitting on the bus. She's sitting behind me, and I'm working up the nerve. Then the bus stops. This guy gets on, and immediately proceeds to give this girl a rose, and she gets excited and hugs him. And I'm sitting there with a trimmed holly branch in my backpack. In elementary, I went to school with a couple dudes that were very gymnastically inclined. They would do a double backflip off the swings instead of just one. They would do flips off the monkey bars, standing backflips, wall flips, you name it. The girls loved them. They would sit and be an audience for these guys every lunch almost. I got jealous. I practiced on my trampoline for a few days. Tried some handsprings, which I got pretty good at. Forwards not backwards. Then the next time they were showing off, I joined them. Boom, guy number 1 comes running through. Handspring. Cartwheel. Backflip. Backflip. Guy number 2 comes bolting behind him. Cartwheel into aerial. Into backflip. Here I come. Cartwheel. Into back handspring. Oh wait. I don't know how to do one backwards. Land on my neck. Wind myself. Start crying. My crush was a kid who lived down the block from my house. I stole his dog from his yard and then went to his front door to return it and get to talk to him. He said he saw me take him out of the yard. I avoided him after that. Back when I was in middle school, I had a crush on this girl. I was into writing at the time, so I put her in a fantasy story I wrote, where she was a warrior. She hated it and told everybody, and showed them the copy I gave her. This did not help my bullying. I still die from thinking about the cringe. I confessed to her that I liked her friend so she would help me get with her. I did it so I could spend more private time with my actual crush. Worked like a charm. 14-year-old me was a genius. My own tale of cringe. I had a crush on a guy who I had 2 classes with. It made sense in my 15-year-old brain that intense eye contact would signal to him that I was all in. Every time we had to talk about something, I stared directly into his eyes without blinking. Also, I read that people like large eyes, but I couldn't do makeup, since mascara makes your eyes look larger, so I would make my eyes as wide as I could. This also meant that if I was talking to another boy, I should look away as much as possible so he didn't think I was into them instead. So the guys in the class thought I was really standoffish, and I'm sure he thought I wanted to murder him. Sorry, Jack. In 12th grade, I had a huge crush on this guy in one of my classes. I knew his favorite book and movie was Fight Club, so I googled everything about it, along with watching the movie. On Valentine's Day, I sent him a card that said I want to have your abortion and gave him my phone number. Leaned over in English class every day and copied his handwriting until ours matched. I had this theory that if our handwriting looked the same he would fall in love with me, but he turned out to be mean, and I wound up with pretty handwriting. He noticed and made terrible fun of me in front of his friends on one of the last days of school. Grade 7, and I was crushed. Oh, Caleb, you were so handsome in your Monster Energy hat. How could you? In kindergarten, I proposed to my crush by yelling across the playground. I didn't get an answer back. In high school, I got some presents for my different crush's birthday. Barely talked to her in person because I was painfully shy, but always talked to her on AIM. Went up to her awkwardly with a red face, gave her the presents, said happy birthday and walked away immediately out of sheer embarrassment. She told me later she liked the gifts. Sheepishly handed her a letter and ran away in like 10th grade. That would have been like a D-rambly mess in speech form that basically said, hey, you're cool, want to hang out sometime? In 3 paragraphs because I was nervous as all duck and didn't know how to people. Funny thing is that she brought it up again in senior year and asked if I wanted to catch a movie or something. Post dumb IG stories just to see if she viewed. We had a foreign exchange student my freshman year of high school. She was French and absolutely gorgeous. So naturally, all of us boys were smitten with her. She was in choir and sang really well. So I figured since I was a musician as well, that was mine with her. So, I busted my ass and learned a love song from a very popular French opera. It took me a really long time to memorize and I thought it would be a bold gesture. So, I sang it to her flawlessly and asked her how she liked it, thinking that taking the effort to learn a love song in her language would be a great gesture. Well, that day, I found out that she was Swedish, not French. I'm ducking stupid. Early college years. She mentioned offhand that she was reading The Hunger Games. So naturally I read the entire trilogy and then tried to bring it up in conversation. She wasn't into me and that certainly did not help. Pretended that I didn't give a shit about them or that I was madly attracted to them. Played it cool. Guess how many times it worked? None. Still doing it at 21. Oh god man. Why you gotta bring up these memories? There have been a few. But one of them was I made this girl a mix CD and did a ratty Photoshop cover for it and everything. IDKWTF I was thinking. I asked her out by parking outside her house and writing it on the windows of my car in car chalk. She sent the dog outside and said you should leave. My dog is outside, he's pretty mean. I liked a boy in the 7th grade. Every day I would buy a Gatorade and pretend I couldn't open it and ask him to. One day I did open and panicked. I tried to close it again as tight as I could and give it to him to open it for me. He called out on how easy it was to open and looked like it had already been opened. I wanted to climb under the bleachers. I was young. Called crush's phone every 60 seconds for an hour. No answer. Repeat. I figured she'd pick up once she got home and I wanted to talk to her ASAP. Unfortunately, she was on the phone with someone else the entire time. Getting the you have another call notifications about incoming calls. Just wasn't responding to them. After about the 60th time she picked up and screamed what? And I tried to worm out of it like it wasn't me that had just called her over and over and over. She didn't buy it, of course. This one still keeps me up at night 30 years later. 13 years old. I learned my crush had taken ballroom dancing lessons. Delighted to have something to talk to him about. I proceeded to harass him all of homecoming with what I probably thought was good-natured ribbon. Looking back, I was being an asshole and straight up making fun of him. Poor guy took it like a champ, but ducking hell I had no idea how to be social. Sorry, Phil. I was maybe 14 at the time and saw my crush riding their bike down my street, so I ran to grab a blanket, dashed outside, laid out on the lawn and pretended to talk really loud on the phone. Had to pretend to have a conversation because had no friends to actually call. When I was in 6th grade, I would yell a lot and be extremely loud when around them. It didn't work. Conversation died down and couldn't think of something to say, so I spammed keys on the keyboard, hit enter, and said my cat ran across the keyboard. Oof. For some reason or another, I had been bragging about my ability to spit a watermelon seed with deadly accuracy. The young woman to whom I had made these claims saw, which probably should have sent her sprinting in any direction other than toward me, or challenged me to hit her textbook as a show of this alleged skill. I'd like to mention that I did not tell her to stand directly in front of me. Anyway, my first shot went wide, sailing far off to the girl's left. She said something akin to ha, and took to light-heartedly berating me for overblowing the scope of my abilities. As she was speaking, I fired my second shot, and against all odds, it landed directly in her mouth. Needless to say, we were both shocked, and in an effort to evoke some humor from the situation, I said something to the effect of, well, hey, since we've sort of kissed already now, want to make it official? Just in case you were wondering. It's definitely not the best idea to suggest tonsil hockey when your intended paramour is already suppressing gags. TLDR, I shot my black load into a girl's mouth. Log in and out of MSN Messenger when it was still a thing. I had a crush on this girl that was a friend of mine's cousin at his 14th birthday party, and she had a helium balloon tied to her wrist. So I hatched a plan and not so subtlety untied it a bit while talking to her so it would float to the ceiling, and only I could reach it for her because I was the tallest boy at the party. Except the ceiling was higher than I anticipated, so I had to stand on something and jump, and when I jumped I farted, and when I farted it was a wet one and my jean shorts were white. I lived in a neighborhood with an elementary school smack dab in the middle of it. Most kids knew where every other kid lived. I once put a bunch of ladybugs into a mason jar with flowers and poked holes in the top to provide air. I left it on her porch wrapped in a sock. All the ladybugs were dead by the time she got to it. Sorry, Erin. Oh god, I made a fake Facebook account to post on my wall and talk to him so it looked like I had made friends. I hate middle school me. In elementary school, climbed onto a snowbank during recess and basically did the 2003 version of twerking in snow pants. As a dumb little kid I got on a swing near her and her friend group so that I could jump off. That wasn't the impressive part though. I'd first act like I had a rough landing, not a botched one. Mind you, that wouldn't be cool and kinda scrape myself up on the wood chips. I'd then act like it was really devastating, but I could easily walk it off because I was just that goddamn tough. Needless to say I was drowning in puss. This hurts to remember. On summer break after my 6th grade, I saw the boy I had a crush on at a festival in my hometown. Had no idea how to get his attention, so I deliberately placed my foot in front of a woman pushing a baby buggy so that she'd run over it. Made a big scene out of it and started to yell and pretend that it hurt really badly. It didn't. Poor woman looked traumatized. That's one of the stories that keep me awake at night. Oh, and BTW, he did notice that and proceeded to laugh at me with his friends. What was I thinking? I was 15 and I had a crush on this boy for 2 years. One day a friend of mine told me that he was about to ask me out. He came up to me, said hello, and while anxiety took the best of me I wanted to look cool, so I said, HM, do I actually know you? Are you new in school? He instantly turned around and left. We had been classmates since elementary school. In high school I tried to deep throat a burrito in front of my crush. IDK. 14-year-old me thought that would be sexy or something. Cue me choking horribly for about 5 minutes straight while trying not to vomit. Tears streaming non-stop down my cheeks, and half of a spit-up bean burrito from Taco Bell all down the front of my clothes. Freshman year was a tough one, lol. I was awkward in high school around girls, and when I finally got a job I tried everything I could to meet or interact with them. Ended up working at a video store and met a very good looking girl checking out a movie. I pulled up a number from the system and called her after I was sure she was home and asked her out. As soon as I started the conversation I knew I had crossed a line, but I tried to keep going. It's been years now, but I still feel like a creep for doing that. I started smoking. That mistake lasted 15 years after 14-year-old me moved on from that crush. When I was in like 3rd grade or something, I pulled my shirt down below my shoulder. I'm a guy. A teacher called me out too. Oh, I win. My space era story. Let's start at the beginning. I was insanely in love with this girl I had known since the first day of kindergarten. Had told her many times all the way through elementary, and despite this, she treated me as a valued friend. Well, we get to middle school, 7th grade, and I decided I needed to step up my game. Obviously she couldn't see my dedication, so I delete all my top friends except for her, and proceed to pour my heart all into my page. Wrote a number of paragraphs professing my love for her, detailing how I would just sometimes sit with my friend and cry because of how much I loved her. How she was a real life angel walking on earth. How I couldn't keep going on without her and wanted her to love me back. It was incredibly painful to read a few years later. To make matters worse, I went to school the next day and made sure I told all my friends to go check out my page. That I had made some updates. So, everyone saw it. Ended up taking it down when a close friend of hers told me that she would probably be more receptive if I just gave her some space for a while. I got it on for a long time after that, but we did end up dating the very next year for a couple months. High school freshman me thought that it would be a great idea to put paper clips in her hair, as in, stab them through her hairband. High school me had problems. Told her on AIM I had a crush on someone. When she asked who, I waited a bit then typed you and signed off dramatically. We did not get married. Became a fan of Aerosmith because he used to wear an Aerosmith t-shirt all the time. This was around the time Get a Grip came out, so like mid 90s. To this day I change the radio station when Aerosmith comes on. I thought it would be a real winner if I intentionally played a mandolin very badly while belting out an off-key self-written tune with the only lyrics being "Duck Me." Now, I did it in front of a friend of mine and he thought it was hilarious, so, naturally, women and men having the exact same sense of humor, I figured this was a surefire win and we would be planning our wedding in a fortnight. She did not, however, respond favorably to my most humble supplications. In this case it wasn't me, but my actual crush. I was hanging out with her, and she were kinda cuddled in a bench, and she started like rubbing her face against mine like cats do. It was really weird, but having a crush on her, I didn't say anything. Not me but the girl who had a crush on me. In 6th grade she dropped me a paper from the 2nd floor and ran away. It said, "Will you go out with me? Yes or yes." She was angry at me the next day for not giving her the paper back, but now we're still friends and she realizes how cringy it was. I still haunt her with that story. When I was young I made fun of some fat guy trying to chat her up and swooped in. It was such a cunt move that made some poor guy feel so bad. Glad I grew out of that. 12 years old, she lived nearby. I went to this neighbor kid who had to have been around 7 or 8 and asked that he get his ball and follow me. We got to her house, and I grabbed his ball and threw it over her fence, knocked on her door and told her my little brother accidentally lost his ball in her backyard. It's cringy but it worked. That was 20 years ago and when married. I have this bad habit of sending Snapchats to the wrong people, and everyone knows this about me, so I'll sometimes purposely send a wrong Snapchat to someone if I want their attention. Like I'll get dressed up and send a Snapchat like, "Is this cute for a lunch date?" to the guy I like in order to make him jealous, and when he replies I'll say something like, "OMG, that was for my other friend, sorry." It's so cringy I can't believe I'm posting it for everyone to see. Purposely avoided talking to her. Still know her now. Still kind of have feelings for her now. Still rarely talk to her. I guess it's not as bad as the rest, but my cringiest story actually worked. So, anyway. First day of orientation week at university. My friend tells me that there's this guy I have to meet. She just met him because they live on the same floor in residence. She's convinced we'll be fast friends. So finally, we all make plans to go watch the school rugby team play one afternoon. I'm sitting there with a few other friends, and my friend comes around the corner with this guy I'm supposed to meet, and my immediate reaction is, oh my god, I would hit that. But being an awkward little ducker, I'm so bad at the getting to know you small talk that I so badly want to make with him. And I'm sitting in silence racking my brain for an excuse to talk to him. And that's when I decide to ask him if he knew the rules to rugby. I laughed and said I wasn't sure what was going on in the game, and would he be willing to explain it to me? My friend is giving me this WTF look, because I played rugby all through high school, so I definitely knew the rules, but I couldn't think of any other excuse to have an extended conversation with him, and I desperately wanted to, so I sat there like an idiot, pretending not to understand the sport I'd played for 5 years, just to have an excuse to chat. Anyway, we've been together 11 years and just celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary. Also yes, I did eventually admit to him that I completely lied about the rugby thing. When I was little I was in a school hallway with a friend who was fake punching me. I noticed my crush walking closer, so what did I do? I explained to my friend why those fake punches are ineffective and gave an alternative way to better take out your opponent, as superior fighting knowledge is the flawless way to make a girl swoon. I regret doing it. It hurts to think about. Not me, but I'll post anyway. At the site where I was doing the practicum part of my graduate school program, there was a fellow trainee who I could tell liked me, but had never had the opportunity to work with me or have any reason to talk to me. One day I was in the library doing some research, and was crouching down scanning the lowest bookshelf in a stack looking for the book I needed. This girl accidentally on purpose dropped a book on my head as she slowly walked past me, and proceeded to apologize profusely and take the opportunity to run her hand slowly over the spots on my head and shoulders where the book had hit. She then stuck around and flirted with me awkwardly for the next 5-10 minutes, before handing me a slip of paper with her email address in case I ever wanted to study together. Being married, I didn't take her up on her offer. I certainly felt flattered, as she wasn't bad looking at all. Plus I have a lot of respect for women who have the nerve to make the first move on a guy they like. I just didn't have the heart to tell her that she might want to be a little more subtle next time. She doesn't have to beat a guy over the head with it. I'm not proud of it, but I used to work IT for a company and had a huge crush on a woman that worked in one of those group cubicle open office designs. So I purposely sabotaged the computers around her so that they'd call me to come up to fix things. In high school, I learned tuba just to impress a girl cause she said she likes tubas. Turns out she only said that cause she was currently dating a tubist. Also, in 8th grade somebody left me the lyrics to a love song by the Beatles but changed all the names to mine, even the ones that didn't make sense. Pretended to smoke crushed up wintergreens as crack and ended up with a busted lip, yeah, puberty is a strange ducking drug on its own.